You are now politicking with Poe on PoPolitickin.com.
I don't know how y'all see it, but when it comes to the children, Wu-Tang is for the children. We teach the children. You know what I mean?
This is James Goi Jr. I'm on the PoPolitickin show, and you can find me at jamesgoijr.com. That's jamesgoijr.com. And when you come to the website, you can get a free PDF copy of Attract Money Forever and sign up for my free monthly Mind, Power, and Money e-zine.
The PoPolitickin show is brought to you by Audible. With over 180,000 titles to choose from, Audible is great for any continuous learner wanting to grow and expand their knowledge and insight. Go to www.audibletrial.com/POAudio and get an audiobook of your choice free with a 30-day trial. After the trial, your paid membership will begin at $14.95 per month. With your membership, you will receive 1 credit every month, good for an audiobook on Audible. Cancel before your trial ends and you will not be charged. So go to www.audibletrial.com/POAudio and download a free book by Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Napoleon Hill, Les Brown, Damon John, and more. Always remember that knowledge is power.
Welcome back to PoPolitickin.com, your home for self-help meets hip-hop. Make sure you download our app. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud. We're pretty much everywhere you listen to our podcast. We're on iHeartRadio now, so make sure you check us out. I'm now politicking with James Goi Jr. He's rejoining us. He's the author of many metaphysics books. One of his most popular books is How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. How you doing?
I'm doing real good. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. Been having good feedback from the interviews, so got to do it again.
All right, I'm up for it.
Cool. So the first question is, I just want to ask you, we kind of talked about it in the first interview, but I just want to ask you your opinion on the science of deliberate creation.
Right. Well, okay, the science of deliberate creation. Now, is that a specific teaching or just the general concept?
Just the general concept.
Okay, great. Yeah, because, let me put that in front of me. Science of deliberate creation.
Right.
Right, because, and that's a great way to put it. I never really thought of that term, but we are all creating as we go, and a lot of people mostly work on the material level, so they make plans and goals, and they go to school and try to meet people and things like that. But a lot of that is their mind power is behind it. So we are deliberately creating all the time. But I mean, if let's say a housewife or a mom makes dinner, she has just deliberately created something. But when I think of a term like science of deliberate creation, I think of a higher level of creation where the person participating in the creation of their life and their circumstances actually understands that thinking and feeling and speaking and imaging, things of this nature, are actually creative processes within themselves. So, and I do like to say that, we are creators of our own lives, but most people are not conscious of the fact of how much they are actually influencing not only their own actions, but also the actions of other people and events and circumstances in general as they affect them. And so when we become conscious of the great power of mind power, really, law of attraction, manifesting techniques, whatever people want to call it, then we can become deliberate creators or deliberate conscious creators to a much higher level, and we realize we're able to accomplish a lot more than we would normally think of, and then we can create a lot more. So, science of deliberate creation, with the understanding of mind power behind it, is a great way to look at it.
And then, I know a lot of your books focus on money, but pretty much you can use like mind power for any anything you want to manifest, right? Not just money. Like if I want to say fitness or love or whatever, you just have to kind of basically use the same principles, right?
Exactly. The principles, the specific techniques are exactly the same for whatever we want to create, attract, accomplish, do. They are the same, and I specialize in the money for a few reasons. One reason is if you can do it with money, then you can do it with anything, because most people have more problem doing it with money than other things. In other words, they use law of attraction or mind power, and they attract a great relationship or the job they like, but they don't necessarily use it to the degree they would like to for money. It doesn't seem to work for them or whatever. So that's one reason. And by focusing on that, which is a very high desire for a lot of people and a real need, they inadvertently, while applying it for money, learn to use the techniques, and they can then just transfer that over to anything, any other endeavor. But the other thing is, when they have more money, that opens up a whole new world of possibility, because now they have the resources and the time and just the wherewithal, the more relaxed state of mind when you're not worrying about your bills. So having more money, the process of attracting it with mind power is very educational and practical, can be applied to anything, but just the mere fact of having more money opens up so many more avenues of possible endeavor, creativity, and living what people would, think as their ideal life, what they would do if they knew they could. And that's, you get all of that but through applying mind power specifically to attract money, it leads to all of those other things.
Yeah, and I've been like, I haven't had a lot of money coming in since we last talked, but I've been doing these two things. So the first thing I've been doing it for like probably a month and a half. I have a gratitude list. So I have a spreadsheet, and each day I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. So I just keep doing that. So now I got like 100 things I'm grateful for. But the next thing I'm doing is a prosperity list. So you start with $1,000, and then you write down like how you spend that one. Like whatever you write, like you get $100,000 a day, but then you have to come up with a way to spend it. Then the next day you get $2,000, you have to come up with a way to spend it. So I'm up to like $50,000. But then the game basically showed me that money is not important as I think it is. Because it's like, because you can only buy so much material stuff, and it's like, okay, what do you really want? So I guess that's what the game is helping me with. But yeah, I just had a lot of money just flowing in, man, from all angles.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great insight too, that you realize that while playing that game, that there's only so many things that you really want or something. But to me, the biggest thing that money gives me is freedom.
Right.
That's it. And if a person doesn't have their own time to spend their time the way they want to, then they're not really free. And to me, that's what money is.
But you're saying freedom from work, or?
Yeah, well, freedom to spend your time how you choose to spend it. And, a lot of people have jobs that they love, mm-hmm. Or businesses and all of that, and that's great. But if people are doing things that they really wouldn't do unless they were getting paid for it, and they are doing it specifically for that reason, and there's no way that they would go to that place and do that thing for free, and a lot of people don't even really overly enjoy their jobs at all. A lot of people hate their jobs. Then you're not free. Now, when I broke free of the work world, having to go out and do jobs that I just didn't care all that much about because I had to have money to pay the bills that month, I was, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I was, as a household, $50,000 in credit card debt. Mm-hmm. And I quit my job, and I vowed to the other 2 members in the family, and I said that I will never work another job. I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm going to lose my cards soon, $50,000 in credit card debt, borrowing from the cards to pay the cards, and quitting my job. But I focused my mind power, and I did everything I was, writing about, because I was working on a book, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. I had already been working on it for for about 8 years at that time. And but within 3 months, 2 six-figure windfalls came in the house. And I have been free ever since. But what I like to point out to people is, number one, that was a great big money miracle, 2 six-figure windfalls. But it came on the heels of the lowest point. That's my lowest financial point in my entire life, dollar-wise, has been the $50,000 in the red, without earning enough each month to even meet basic expenses, so borrowing more each month. That was my lowest point, and it led to one of my greatest mind power and money miracles. So, but I claimed, this is what I want to tell people. You know, they think, well, when I have enough money, then I'll be able to spend my time how I want. Or when I have enough money, I'll be able to quit that job. And I'm not telling people to quit their jobs, because that takes a lot of faith and it takes a lot of mind power to pull it off. But I claimed my freedom at the lowest financial point in my life and quit the only job the household had at the lowest financial point of our lives. And that's like, let's see, 2007, that's like 10, 11 years ago, something like that. About a year later, I published my book, How to Attract My Easy Mind Power. But I claimed it first, and then I just started living it. And so I have been free since that day, even though I was still in debt for the next month or more or whatever, and all of that on me. But I started to basically act as if. I mean, that's a chapter in How to Attract My Easy Mind Power, the powerful process of acting as if. So I thought, well, you know, I really want to be a self-help author. And in my mind, what does such a person do? Well, they stay home and they write books. They spend their time writing books and you know, on social media and whatever they have to do with all of that. And I said, well, fine, great. That's what I'm going to do starting right this moment. I couldn't give, even though I was a very responsible person, I couldn't give notice to the work. I went into immediate silence for 10 days. I didn't even talk on the phone for the next year. And I wasn't on the internet, so even with my family, mother, father, sister, it was only snail mail for communication when we'd been used to having, you know, calls on a regular basis. But I knew that was a turning point in my life, but I also knew that if I wasn't careful, I could lose it. I could lose my faith. I could lose just that resolve to do this thing no matter what. And so I completely, you know, that's one of the times in my life when I started stopped shaving and cutting my hair and all. I did shave and cut my hair since then, but of course you can see I've grown it back. But that was a defining moment in my life. I just applied what I was learning. I burned my ships. I burned my bridges behind me, and here I am. And so to wrap it back around to what we're talking about, I am free. I am one of the few people I personally know who is really free, especially from, you know, before I got in and started meeting other authors and stuff, because I do exactly what I want every single day of my life, every minute of my life. There's nothing I have to do. There's nowhere I have to be. I literally stay home because I'm basically a relative recluse at this time in my life for months at a time. I've gone 3 months without even leaving my own property. And why? Because I can. Because there's nowhere I have to be. There's nothing I have to do. I don't ever have to set an alarm clock. So I have gained what to me is freedom. And that is, you know, life is precious. You know, I'm 59 years old. And who knows how much more time I have. I know I have decades upon decades, I like to think, because I live very healthy and I have a lot of health knowledge and whatnot. But life is precious. Every minute is precious. And I get up every day and spend every minute of every day doing things that I'm passionate about and that I want to do. To me, that's complete freedom. I'm free. I'm free.
And then when you were saying earlier, you was talking about like using your mind power and focusing. So, like, is that like all the time you're thinking like that, or is it like a certain number of hours a day, or you just constantly focused in your mind like throughout the day, like I guess like 18 hours a day?
Right, but it's not like a person might think where it's like a chore or even hard, because most people think counter they think in a negative way, counterproductively. They think of things they don't want, and they have fear, they have the wrong emotions and the wrong images in their minds. They speak the wrong words, speak as if. It's another very important technique I teach. And but you get to the point where it's the normal way. It's normal for you. So basically, I tell people mind power is not really like a hobby. It's not something you do like, you do your meditation in the morning and then at night, or you do visualization in the morning or something, or your affirmations a couple times a day. Mind power is not a hobby for me. It's a way of life. And so everything, I know and recognize that everything that happens is going to happen on a particular day or 5 years from now based on what I'm thinking today and imagining today and the plans and goals and dreams. Every single thought, every single feeling has power. And so I live in almost an awake meditative state for all of my waking hours, and I'm very aware also in my sleeping hours. I was on a show last night, and I talked about lucid dreaming, and I had a lucid dream last night without even trying, where you become aware in your dreams that you're dreaming. So I'm very conscious, and I can't, sit there and, like get angry or mad or fearful or think of bad things without immediately realizing I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And I have the knowledge to know that, I'm, if I do that, I'm attracting bad things to myself. So it's immediately nipped in the bud. It's like an automatic reflex. It's not even it's like if you put your hand near the stove and the flame's hot, you automatically pull it back. You don't even have to think of it. So if something happens that in my younger days would have kind of like got me hot under the collar or upset me or whatever, now it's like the finger going near the flame. I just immediately pull it back without even thinking about it. So yes, the mind power practice as I live it is all of my waking hours, and even in my REM sleep when I'm conscious and actually dreaming and whatnot to a degree. But certainly I'm on, because when you get used to this, it becomes your habitual way of thinking, and you just think this way and feel this way and image this way and speak this way all the time. It's just a normal thing. So from when I wake up to when I go to bed, I'm in a creative mode. I'm aware of my thoughts and feelings and the images and the words I'm speaking, and to the best of my degree, which is a very high degree at this late juncture that I've been at this for so long, for decades, it's almost all creative and positive in nature, and very little of anything that's going to tend to attract anything that I don't want. And if there is even anything like that pokes its head out, even briefly, as an automatic reflex, I immediately turn away from that towards what I want. But that's with decades of practice of living what I call the mind power, way of life, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how long you been doing it?
Right.
How many years?
I'm 59 years old. Yeah, I'm 59 years old. I found my first books along subjects of these lines in my very early 20s. So from there, you got 20s. Let's say I was maybe 22 or something. Let's just use that as a reference point. It's about in there. 32, 42, let's see, 22, 32, 42, 52. So in another, let's say 3 years, I've been at this for 40 years. That I've had this knowledge and have been practicing it to different degrees, learning about it, and now writing about it, teaching about it. I don't do that at this time, but in younger days, even as far back as more than 30 years ago, I was out on the New Age bookstore circuit in San Diego, all around San Diego, South County, East County, San Diego, North County. Lived over in Sedona, Arizona. That was decades ago, and I was teaching this kind of thing. So it's really, it's in my blood. It's just inextricably part of who I am. I live my life in a completely different way than the average person on the street, and I live my life as far as being a practitioner of mind power to a higher degree than most people who are students of the subject, because most people are just up and down, and their faith wavers, and they get fearful, and then they try to use the techniques to overcome that. But I like to tell people, take heart. If you really, really make this like a lifestyle where you realize, when you really get that every single thought, every single feeling, every single word out of your mouth, and every single image in your mind has creative potential. It has power behind it, the potential to bring that thing or things like it into your experience. When you really get that, then and not a lot of people get it to that degree where they really, really get it and make it a top priority in their life. But when you do, you will train yourself to be on your game almost nonstop. And when you get down the road enough away, you don't even have to try. It's just normal. Before, it was normal for you to just think negative all the time and look at what you don't want and to be fearful and all, like a lot of people. And now, when you get down to where I'm at, you're always on all the time. The creative mechanism, the thoughts, the feelings, the words, the images are almost always positive in nature, because that's what you've trained yourself to do. And in the beginning it takes discipline, but the thing about discipline is the more you use discipline, the less you need it,
right?
Because then habit starts to kick in. So we tend to do what we tend to do. So the more you think positive, the more habitual it becomes, the less it's like running, and I ran for a little while, not ever any races or anything, but when I was back in New Jersey, maybe 17 years old, I got into running. And, at first I had to really push myself to get out there, and stuff. But then habit takes over. And, people who are really runners, I mean, they get up and they get those sneakers on, they get that sweatshirt on or whatever, rain, snow, heat, whatever, and they're out there. Whatever their routine is, they're out there. Why? People think, they got such great self-discipline, they do that every day. No, they used self-discipline for long enough for habit to kick in. Now it's just habit. Now it's automatic. And that's how positive thinking is, if you want to call it positive thinking or positive mind power application. That's how that is for me. It's habit now. It's automatic.
What do they call it? PMA, positive mental attitude. Yeah, I'm saying,
right.
I've been doing it for like 10 years, so I hope I can be like you one day. But I started like 26, I'm 36, so yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good young age. And I didn't start 20 years before that, so you're on a good road.
Thank you. And then I know you're a part of the Think and Grow Rich, that documentary, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I give a testimonial. I'm not one of the main teachers that's in the movie part of the movie. There's 10 people, different entrepreneurs and teachers and things, that are at the end of the movie, and it's a great segment there. The credits roll for a little bit, but then they start bringing in these people, and so I got to have like a solid. I was interviewed for 45 minutes, I guess it was, and we ended up with 45 seconds, which is a lot of time in a movie that's only like 90 minutes long. I mean, that's almost a minute. That's almost one of those minutes. And they got 25 or more teachers that they interviewed, plus the people with the testimonials, plus all of the reenactments and stuff. So I'm very happy with it. I have seen it, and I'm just really blessed to be a part of that, because the Think and Grow Rich, as far as I can remember, all these years back, is the first book that I got that really showed me that I could actually use my mind. I can use my mind to change my circumstances and to attract money. Mm-hmm. And so, to all these years later, to be an author on these subjects and to then be in that movie. And I tell people, when you're on the right track, you'll just be guided. And the way that came about is I had contributed something to. I probably am not at liberty to talk about it, but let me say this. The way it came about was magical. I mean, even the fact that I heard about it when I did and knew there was an opportunity that maybe I could get into it, it was like just a little, things had to happen that don't normally happen. I had to get on the internet and do things that I don't normally do, and it all led to me being in that movie. And it was just an amazing experience. It's like synchronicity. It's like something that you just know was meant to be. And so to be in that movie it's sanctioned by the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and it's got amazing people in it. Barbara Corcoran from the Shark Tank, and Rob Dyrdek, Bob Proctor. I mean, to have any part in that is just an amazing, a wonderful, thing that I'm really grateful for.
I don't know how true, if you heard of this, but I heard that they like the book Think and Grow Rich, they took the word vibration out like 36 times. Did you hear that?
Oh wow!
Yeah, they said they took the word out. That's what because I listened to a lot of like Jerry and Esther Hicks, and that's what they were saying. They said they took the word vibration because I guess he found the original manual one, and he said they took the word vibration out 36 times.
So even before it was published the first time.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, even now, I listen to some teachers and on these types of subject. And, some of my other books, you mentioned I've written other books, Aware Power Functioning, Advanced Manifesting Made Easy, The God Function. I mean, these books are very, very deep, and they don't really, spiritually, and they don't pull any punches. But I notice with some teachers, and this isn't bad or good, it's just how they operate. But I notice that in other words, I can tell that they know more than they're saying, but they're careful about what they say because they don't want to alienate too many people or blow them out of the water. And so I'm not really surprised to hear that, because a word like vibration, way back in the 30s, it sounds a little airy-fairy, metaphysical or whatever, whereas, Think and Grow Rich, even though it covers the mind and all of that, it's very practical with planning and networking, mastermind groups and all of this. So I'm not surprised to hear that, but I've never heard that. I'm glad you told me that, because that's an important piece of history, that word was replaced with one or more other words. Yeah.
And I was going to ask you too, because I know you have a lot of books, but do you plan on doing like audio books and putting your stuff on Audible?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because I listen to mostly audio books.
Right. And I do need to get to that. So that's a good reminder. Yeah, I plan on putting most of, if not all of them, into Audible and that whole thing. Right now, they're all available as Kindle ebooks and as print books, but I definitely want to do that as well. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll ask you too. So say like, I don't know, like me, like I just going through a divorce recently. So how is it like, people going through stuff like that? How can you just like, I guess, reset and kind of get back, because it's hard not to think about stuff like that.
Right, it is, especially when you're going through it. And the thing is, when we get along in life and we get on the other side of experiences like that, experiences where we lose jobs, experiences where, just it could be anything. And it's really hard, and it seems like a negative thing and all, but how many times have we heard people say, that was the hardest thing I ever went through, or whatever, or at the time I thought it was the most terrible thing that could happen, but now I look back and I see that it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It led to me having this job, or it led to me meeting that person. And I believe in a concept I call divine order. I believe that if we're good people and we're working in the light, for truth and good things, and we're moving decisively forward, that everything will be in divine order for us. And no matter what it looks like in the moment. So I can look back at when I was, our family household there was $50,000 in credit card debt, and that was like the worst scenario. I mean, within a couple of months, we probably would have been out. The cards would have, you can't borrow only to a certain level on your cards, and they monitor and they see how much money you're borrowing. So they would have got wind of that pretty quick. And that was the lowest time of my life, the worst thing that you can imagine, being $50,000 in credit card debt and just not making enough money to even pay your own bills and eat, much less pay off your cards. But it was the single greatest thing as far as my professional life and financial life that ever could have happened to me, because it caused me to dig in and create something from that moment forward, a completely different life. And so I tell people that, these things are hard, but when, you might get down the road 5 years from now and look back and say, well, that really wasn't the right relationship, or now I've met the real woman of my dreams that I think I'll be the rest of my life and all of that. I like to tell people, hindsight is easy to look back and say, oh yeah, that was a great thing. But how about using it now? How about when we go through things now and we're right in the thick of it, to just remind ourselves of other things that we thought were bad that turned out good, and say, you know what, I don't know how or why, but this is working toward my best good also. This is in divine order. And I recognize divine order just as a natural fact, but also as a mind power practitioner, I realized that having that mindset that everything is in divine order and will work out for the best actually helps to make that true also. So it's a chicken or the egg kind of a thing, but I completely believe in that. And of course, when things negative are going on and we can't stop thinking about them and things, that's the time to train yourself to think of other things, to think of positive things. Even if it's that person, think of a good time and not a fact that it's over. Think of how it was, the good points when it was going on, and then now this is, and just tell yourself that everything works out for my best good, and this is for my best good too, even though it doesn't feel like it in the moment. That'll help make it that. But I think and really believe that at a deeper spiritual level, that's really the truth anyway.
Yeah, and I think with me too, I was focusing on what I want, so I was focused on how I want my spouse to be and stuff. Because they say don't focus on the negative, just focus on what you want. So then I just start focusing on it, and all this happened. So I was looking at it like that too, that's why it happened, because I need to bring in what I want. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that.
Right. For new things to come in, sometimes other things have to give way because there's no room, and it's hard to know all of the whys and wherefores in the short term. But certainly when we look back on a lot of these situations, we're just really grateful for the things that hurt at the time, but we're better off later on personally for that. And usually when things are in divine order, really the beauty of it is that I recognize that it's better for everyone. So if you're in that mindset, and if that's what's going to be the truth, it's not only going to be good for you, it's the best thing for her too. Yeah. Because when you allow the universe to orchestrate the circumstances, and you allow the universe to guide you and to work things out, and you trust that process, the universe doesn't ever make one person gain by causing undue loss to another person. In other words, the universe, God, whatever people want to call it, is so intelligent that, and it's basically an automatic mechanism. We don't have to look at it as some all-seeing, all-knowing, personality. But the mechanism itself is just, it does not make mistakes, and everyone benefits. And I say, for instance, that the universe won't cause one person to gain through undue loss to another person. And I use that word undue because sometimes someone else does have some loss coming that they've earned. They could be someone who cheats people financially or whatever. So the universe might help you, and you end up with money, and some other person loses money. But if you really look at the situation from a holistic view, it's not undue loss. They had that coming. But so with that caveat to explain, that part of it, everything works out still in divine order. No one gains from anyone else's undue loss or unearned or undeserved loss. And when we live in that consciousness, life becomes magical. I mean, every day is a journey of just awe-inspiring coincidences and intuitions and gut feelings and knowings and conditions and other people's actions just all coming into line with what we want to have be the truth of our lives. And anybody or anything that affects our lives, they tend to morph and to modify what they are to fit into what we are creating. So if these things or people or circumstances are going to affect us, we're in a creative state where we're creating that they're going to affect us in a positive way. And it's a magical process. And there's much less, there's still work involved. I mean, as an author, I have to study publishing, and I have to keep up on things and do radios and make sure radio interviews, make sure I'm present at those times and work on new books. But I love all of it, so none of it actually feels like work. But so much of what happens to bring my life vision into reality is not even done by me. It's other people. It's an email I'll get out of the blue. I mean, many years ago, when I first published my book, I thought it would be really great to have a book interview, but I barely even knew how to use a book trailer, like a little video for my book. And right away I got out of the blue, someone from over across the pond, they call it, over in England, I think she was, volunteered. She likes my book, and she volunteered. She's learning how to make book trailers and stuff, and she'll practice on my book. Huh. She'll make me a free video.
Wow.
And then I wanted to get on, because when I first got on the internet, I was on this little website for writers and readers that my publisher had. The website's no longer there, but I thought, I'd like to get on MySpace. I think it was, MySpace was the first one, I think. And this person there said, you know how you have messages back and forth on the website like you do on Facebook. Yeah, James, do you have a MySpace page? No. Oh, I don't know how to do it, and this, well, it's real easy. I'll help you. As a matter of fact, I'll set the page up for you. And they set the page up for me and say, here, here's how you log in and everything, and off and running. So things like that, that's the norm for me.
But I told you how I found you, right? Because I went to Abraham. I went and saw Esther Hicks. She was out here, and I was driving home, and I was like, man, I want to interview somebody like that. And then, like, the next day, I was on Amazon. I was on her books, and I just scrolled down, and I saw you, and I was like, let me email him. And, yeah,
right.
So it's just sometimes you got to put the thought out there.
That's right. That thought has power. Thoughts go out and they attract back the nature, substance, or subject of that thought. And a lot of times it just does not take a lot of time. There you are. The next day you're running into the type of person on Amazon that you were thinking you would like to interview, and then there it was. It's synchronicity. It's mind power at work.
And then what books are you reading right now?
I'm actually not reading anything. The most recent books I read were more on marketing. Book. There's a guy named Ryan Holiday, and I'm trying to think the last, because I'm more in a writing mode now. Like I just recently wrote a book, I guess just a few weeks ago, and I'll tell you about that. I was on Amazon, and I was poking around, looking at my books, looking at some other books, and I saw this book title, and I won't tell the titles because I never give my titles until the books are published. But I saw this book title, and my mind immediately added in, let me think, I think I used a part of the title, but I changed a word, a key word, and I thought, wow, that would be a great title. And then I thought, I'm going to write that book. And then I thought, this is completely out of the blue now. I was just poking around on Amazon like I do sometimes. So then I thought, that'd be a great title. Then I thought, I'm going to write that book. I just knew. And then the thought came in, I have to start right now. I immediately pulled up a Word document, started typing, and before I knew what happened, I had 5 chapters. And the next day I wrote another 2, next day another 3, next day another 3, as I could get to them. And so I had this book, which is an amazing book. I read it out loud to my life partner, Kathy, and she thinks it's as good or better than anything I've written so far. But I had no idea to write a book. There was no outline or anything. I had no idea really where the book was going as I was writing it. I had no idea at the end of each chapter what the next chapter would be about, but I was given the title or whatever right at the end of the one chapter, and then I know what the title of the next chapter. It was just really bizarre, and I wrote a book. So I'm more in a creative mode as opposed to like a study mode right now or anything like that. And then I'll be writing another one very soon. I came up just within a very short time of that, I thought, well, I'd like to write another book. And then this one's going to be different because that one I just had a title and ran. And this one I came up with, it's going to be a 2-part book. And it's going to be 4 steps to such and such, which I won't say yet. And so part 1 is the basics. It's 6 chapters of, and the titles just came to me, boom, 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 boom. And then part 2 is the steps. And there's 4 chapters in that, and I know that book is somehow magically just sitting there waiting to be written because the title and all the chapter titles and the part titles, it just dropped into my mind. I wrote this little thing right here with the thing in just like a minute. It just was there, and so that's the mode I'm in right now to get some more books going.
And then I'll say you said a term that I don't hear a lot of people say. You said life partner.
Right. Yeah. Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we've been together for 30. She's my spiritual counterpart or life partner, but we're not married. We don't have children, but we've been together for 35 or more years. We met in our 20s and been together ever since. Yeah. And we'll be writing books together too. I was talking to her about an idea for one. Because we've been through a lot of very amazing spiritual.
Yeah, and she got to see it all.
Well, she's involved in it too. She's a medium in her own right, and she doesn't do it professionally, but she talks to dead people, angels, the whole 9 yards, and we had this experience when we were both living out in Sedona, Arizona, where we participated in an exorcism of a demon out of a young woman. And, we didn't participate in it. We did it. I tell in interviews, I say I participated in it. And what I usually haven't said before is that, well, Kathy was the other person. So Kathy and I did this exorcism. And so I was telling her just a few minutes ago, we should just sit down and write that, just sit down together. And I would, we would refresh each other's memory as I type. And I think that might be a book coming up too, but we've had so many amazing experiences. A lot of, actually, all of my other books, maybe Attract Money Forever is in the first person, where I say would use a word like I or me, but all of the other books are like third person kind of a thing. They're just straight teachings or whatever. But some of these books coming up now, like with the exorcism, they'll just be, me, like I did this and back in such and such, we were, whatever. And so that'll be a whole new type of writing for me, writing
in first person.
In first person of personal experiences, things that I've actually experienced, seen, been through, and there's been a lot of just divine intervention, mind power miracles, occult activity, demons.
I would say, did you see the demon leave the body?
I don't see exactly like Kathy sees, but she can see those things, yeah, and see the family members come in from above. They look like angels, but they're actually family members, and all of that. I actually held the demon in my body during a certain part of, because we just have, we never read about how to do exorcisms, but Kathy's good at helping dead people go over and all of that. She's been doing that since she's a very young girl, just natural thing. Or we'll be out in public and see a dead person around someone and go give them a message or something. But I actually held the demon in my body. There was a certain very crucial part of that whole thing, and it was in me. But something that had happened to me where I actually got a demon in me when before I got together with Kathy, shortly before, and I had to wrestle with that thing for whatever it was, a week or so. That prepared me. That prepared me. You look at that as a negative thing to have a run-in with a real demon who other people who were in the know that I told. One person who was extremely spiritual and knew about all this stuff, she was a practitioner of Eckankar and all of this, and she worked where I worked, boss's wife, and I told her about it, and she went home. She said she'll meditate on it that night, and she came back the next day, and she said, it came to me. She says, I saw it. I was in the bathtub, and that thing came to me. And she said, I'm sorry. I can't help you. This thing is just too vicious, too mean, too evil. It looked like a wolf with fangs and everything else. She said, I never dealt with anything like that, and I can't do it. And so it was really bad. There was a girl, I was running a phone room for appointment setting for a social introduction service, like a high-priced dating service, where the programs are $600-700, and we set the appointments for the counselors to go out in the field and sign people up. And a girl came into and actually I'm reminding myself I need to write this up too, because it's an amazing story. But a girl came there, and she had only worked there a couple of days or whatever, short time, and she asked me for a ride one night, if I could give her a ride home. And she lived down in San Ysidro, south of San Diego, right on the border. And I drove her home, and it's a long story, but she had a demon in her. She was talking in another voice, a deep male voice at one point. I mean, just like you would see in like The Exorcist or something. And that thing got in me, and it was hell getting it out. Yeah. But then those years later in Sedona, that actually prepared me to be able to hold a demon inside of myself while Kathy was doing all the necessary work, because she was going into a past life, and the demon was actually a human being who had lived before, but their anger and hatred. The reason the girl came to us for the exorcism is that the thing had been following her, chasing her, trying to kill her for years. And she said the day before, it pushed her, in other words, in her body or whatever, and made her lurch forward off the curb right in front of when a bus was coming. And she almost got hit by a bus. And that what drove her. We were teaching at the time at a New Age center there in Sedona. And it's a big mecca for spiritual things, even though it's a small area and a small population in and of itself. But like 1 million people a year go through there or something. And that's how she found us. That's how she ended up coming to us. But that experience some years before with my own demon run-in, that prepared me for what I had to do in that. So there's, I'm an independent publisher. I own 1,000 ISBNs in my own name. And, for anyone who knows publishing, you use a different ISBN for each edition of a book. So you write a book, you put it in Kindle, you put it in print, maybe you put it in audio book. Well, that could be 3 ISBNs for one book. But I have a lifetime goal of writing 300 books. And I've got no lack of material, no lack of ideas, no lack of experiences to draw from or anything like that. It's just getting to it and doing it. And I'm starting to get in that mode now, because even though I just recently published 9 books in October, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power being a republish from before, I haven't actually written a new book until just last week, or a few weeks ago. I haven't actually written a new book since 2011. So many years have passed since I've even written a book. But now I'm starting to come back into that creative mode, and I know the books are going to be just like this book here. I wasn't even planning it. 4 days later, I had what is really a pretty amazing book.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so how can, I guess 2 questions. How can people protect themselves with demons? And then how did you get that demon out? So I guess maybe the first question, how did you get a demon out? Then answer, like, how can you protect yourself with demons?
Right. Well, the way I got the demon out was quite interesting. I didn't actually do it in and of myself. I had a friend, and he had a girlfriend, and she was a born-again Christian. She was really into Jesus and all of this. And he said, go talk to, so-and-so. And I said, well, she's one of those born-again Christians. I mean, what's she gonna do or whatever? But she had me over to her house, and her boyfriend, her new boyfriend, because the other person wasn't actually her boyfriend any longer. They were both born-again Christians, and they prayed over me. And I didn't really think, anything of it, but they removed that demon from me. They prayed. They prayed to their concept of God, Jesus, whatever, and they brought in the power to get rid of that. Now, the thing is, that thing still knows where I am. That thing knows everything about me. When I was in the trailer, I don't know if you ever heard of the EST training, way back in the early 80s, Werner Erhard seminar trainings, and there was never any advertising, but people would tell people and bring them in. And it was a transformative type of 2 weekends and Wednesdays on either end and in the middle. And but I had done that, and this demon knew that the demon in the girl, talking to me through the girl in the man's voice, knew that I had, not only knew that I had done est, and that girl had not done est and didn't know anything about est, not only did that demon know that I had done est, but that demon took everything I had thought I had learned and to that point in my life and in the est training and flipped it around to make it to actually make a point for him. What the whole thing was is the demon interviewed me and was telling me how much more power I could have, because I was just starting to get into the spiritual stuff. I had done the est training. I was into this mind power thing. And this demon actually tried to recruit me to the dark side and offered me all of this power and used my understanding of energy and mind power and the est training and just flipped it around and showed how it was just a slight change of perspective. And everything this demon said really, through the girl, really made sense, perfect sense, the way it explained it, because, they're very intelligent beings. So anyway, that's how it got into me. And or that's how I got it out of me, was basically these two born-again Christians prayed it out of me. And what I wanted to say, though, this still does come back from time to time, but it can't really touch me. Like when I was talking about it, I tuned into it. And whenever you think of a person dead or alive or whatever, there's actually an energetic connection. It can't be any other way. There's only energy and consciousness at the deeper level of reality. But it's almost like a fly, like a gnat comes by your ear or a fly buzzes around your head. It's that sort of thing with that. It can't touch me. Still knows where I am, though, and all of that. But for people to protect themselves from demons, I mean, that's a big subject. I'm going to write a book about it. I'm already planning that. And not just demons, but dead people. I mean, all of these disincarnate beings, and positive beings, too, can influence us. But people often can attract demons by vibrating on levels that demons vibrate on. In other words, demons, in my experience and to my knowledge, they're very hate-filled, they're very aggressive, they are very power-hungry, they're very angry, they carry a lot of resentment, hatred, so when a person actually does that, when a person expresses their energy in that way, you can and will, just like however you express your energy, you'll attract people that vibrate with that. If you're positive, you seem to attract other positive people and things like that. Well, you will actually attract forces like that to you. So one of the best ways to protect yourself from demons, first of all, is try not to be afraid of them, because they're really not they're not the big bad wolves that you think they are. I mean, I got one that'll buzz around me anytime I think about it, or sometimes just come of its own volition, but it can't touch me because it has no power over me, and I know that. I've already gained back my independence, and I'll never lose it again. I know what the situation is. So with people that are being to protect themselves is to think in positive ways, godlike ways. You want to attract angels and things like that? Well, think benevolent thoughts, think love, harmony, peace. And this is not unknown by some people really in the know, is that even a lot of people's actions, like Kathy, I told you she's a medium. Well, she actually, there was a woman that came to one of our classes in the early years, and she had a really bad gambling problem, but she'd never had a gambling problem before. But her father had died, and he had a gambling problem. Well, he was attached to her. She was gambling for him. He was gambling through her. Kathy helped to separate him, to move him on. Boom, end of gambling problem. And so what I want to point out, not just demons, but dead people, they can actually influence our actions. They can actually act through us. When you go down to a bar or something where people always meet and drink, day after day, well, there's disincarnate beings there that maybe they even went to that particular bar, but you're vibrating on the same level. You're bringing them in. Not only can they vicariously feel the experience of drinking through you, but they can make you desire to drink. And once they know who you are, they can find you even when you leave the bar. I believe that certain murders are committed, and I'm not the only one that believes this and knows this as a fact, really, that when you open yourself up to that anger and all of that, another force that's vibrating at that level then come in and influence you. And, we've all heard of people who just go berserk and kill people, and they actually have no memory afterwards of the incident, and that can absolutely be true because it wasn't the person. I know what demonic possession is because I was possessed for a short time in my early 20s. And when they get in, you don't know who's thinking. You don't, and they think you think. They think thoughts of violence, and it seems like you're thinking them, but it's not you.
Yeah.
And so people need to stay on a high level, a high vibration. That's how to protect yourself from demonic forces, but also don't be afraid of them because they can feed in, and that's a line in also. But really live a spiritual life and live in divine order, cultivate light and spiritual protection, and you can not be affected by that. But average people who don't know anything about all of this spiritual stuff, if they vibrate at those types of levels and something gets attached to them, then all bets are off. It might be something as simple as a dead person that was a drug addict, and all of a sudden, or a gambler, like I talked about. The average person on the street, it could be a loved one. I've heard stories, and maybe you have, of people who they lose a loved one, and then before you know it, they find themselves eating what the favorite food of that person was. Well, that's because the person is still with them, and they're feeling those desires because the auras, the minds are intertwined. So you want to be as spiritually, self-contained as possible, and come to know, the average person on this planet at this time, not all of their thoughts are their own. And it can be from living people as well. Thoughts are powerful, and they can affect us, and that's why spiritual autonomy and becoming a strong individual in spirit is very important, because as a natural consequence, you are protecting yourself from all of these other types of forces and influences that would lead you down roads that you wouldn't normally choose for yourself.
Yeah, I remember one time I had got with this girl, and then I just felt like slept with her, but I felt like all this like negative energy, and I felt something. It was just like a funk. It took like at least a month or two to get it off of me.
Right. I actually had an experience one time in my younger days when I was with a woman intimately, and her face changed into another woman that I know. Her face, it completely changed into it, and I started talking to that other person. And then the person I was with was there and said, well, what are you calling me that name for, or whatever. But I actually later found out from another person I know that they were with a woman at one time, and they know this other woman and had also been with that other, well, I hadn't actually been with that other woman in that way. But they had actually been with that other woman, and when they were with a woman, that other woman, which is the same woman that came into the body of the woman I was with, had come into their woman's body.
Wow.
The same person. So that was validation for me, even though I don't really need validation. I know I'm not hallucinating. I mean, these things are real. I know that by now. But this other person had the same exact experience involving the same exact third party. And so there's so much more going on under the surface than we have any idea, and most people are asleep to most of what is real and actual. They're just not aware of reality, true reality as it really is. They're more living in an illusion world, which is what the physical world is to a high degree and in many ways.
All right, then. So we had We always at an hour, so we're going to have to do another one. We always get some good interviews. Anything you want to leave the listeners with before we head out?
No, just if you liked anything you hear or if you need more money in your life, just pop over to jamesgoijr.com and get a free copy of a free PDF copy of Attract Money Forever and sign up for my free monthly Mind Power and Money zine. And so if you'd like to connect with me, that's a good way to get and stay connected with my mailing each month to you.
PoPolitickin.com